Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got our 5 best bets for college basketball here on February 24th. And yesterday, officially getting back on the right track. We knew we were getting there eventually. And yesterday, a 4-1 day. Should have been a 5-0 day if Purdue didn't start the second half, giving up a, 20-2 run against Indiana. Come on. Purdue's losing to the Indiana Hoosiers. Oh my goodness. The Boilermakers are officially not a threat, and they just let Indiana back into play to potentially make the NCAA tournament. I can't believe that's happening, but the Indiana Hoosiers legitimately have a shot now. It's crazy. And folks, before we get into the best bets here for this Monday slate, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. In a couple hours here, we will have our NBA predictions as well on the channel, so make sure to check that video out. 8 games today in the National Basketball Association, and yesterday we posted our UFC Fight Night Cop versus Almabayev predictions. It is the final MMA video here on the Greedo Plays channel, so make sure to check that video out. Link in the description down below. Why is it the final MMA video? Because we are moving to Greedo Plays MMA next week for UFC 313 Pereira versus Ankalaev. Make sure to subscribe to that channel again for more MMA content, including predictions and more. Again, that's linked in the description down below. All right, let's get on the first of our 5 best bets for today. A lot of favorites today, okay? I know we do pick favorites more than underdogs, I'll be honest, but today I'm not gonna lie, we're going all favorites. So, hey, fade if you want, but this is the card I've got today. We're starting in the Atlantic Coast Conference with the Florida State Seminoles at home in Tallahassee against the North Carolina Tar Heels. We've stayed away from the Heels for a little bit. Now, we did pick North Carolina quite a bit to start the season, and they didn't always cash for us. Now, we relied on, RJ Davis, who's been in college for quite a bit now. At least he's producing in his 6th year in college. I don't know if it's actually his 6th year. It feels like RJ Davis has been in here for a while, though. It's his 5th. At least he actually produces. Unlike a guy like Trey Galloway. Anyways, or the guy at Charlotte. I'm blanking on his name right now. Regardless, North Carolina on a 3-game winning streak. So we've stayed away from the Tar Heels a little bit, but what have they done in, the absence of us picking them? They've won 3 in a row, beating Syracuse on the road, beating North Carolina State at home, and beating Virginia. Given 3 games they're supposed to win. The toughest out of those 3 are probably the road game at Syracuse, but they handled the Orange, and now North Carolina finds themselves at 10-6 in the ACC, 17-11 overall, and they get a road spot here against Florida State, a team that is better than the 3 that we previously mentioned, but a team that is very beatable, extremely beatable is Florida State. This is an FSU team who's coming off a loss to Louisville in their last one. They beat Miami at home, but that's Miami, lost to Clemson at home, and then a good win on the road at Wake Forest, a win at home against Notre Dame. Prior to that, 4 straight L's. It's an extremely winnable game for North Carolina. I don't know if we've ever talked about the Seminoles this season. This might be the first Florida State game we featured on the channel. But North Carolina is still a better basketball team. Again, a 3-game winning streak going into this one. This team needs to start winning some basketball games to at least gain some momentum going into the ACC tourney. Of course, RJ Davis has been the leading scorer all year long, but we've seen Ian Jackson come on of late. Obviously, Jackson is this team's 2nd leading scorer, but again, you need more than just RJ Davis, obviously, on this North Carolina team. And for the Seminoles, again, a 7-9 squad this year in the ACC. Their leading scorer being Jameer Watkins, who does average 18 a night. Malik Ewan averaging 14.5. Actually, I think we've done 1 FSU game this year. I think. Regardless, again, it's a lot of Jameer Watkins. He is the guy for Florida State. But I like North Carolina on the road. The Tar Heels are a 2.5-point favorite on the road in Tallahassee, and I think they should be able to take care of business. It is the one and only matchup, at least in the regular season, between these 2 squads. But FSU, again, don't forget they went on that 4-game losing streak in the middle of ACC play, going to California, losing back-to-back games, again, to Cal and to Stanford, I should say, the Bay Area, but back-to-back losses, again, against those 2 squads. They return home, lose to VTech, they lose to BC on the road. Yeah, they rebounded by beating Notre Dame, who's not the most impressive, obviously, but somehow they beat Pitt over the weekend. And then a win on the road at Wake Forest. Again, that is their most impressive victory, arguably all year. At Wake Forest, maybe the win at home against Pittsburgh. But no, I'd say, yeah, Florida State's victory at Wake Forest, winning that game by 2 points on February 12th, by far their best win. But then they host Clemson, and Clemson beats them 72-46. Now, I'm not saying North Carolina is going to put it on them like that, obviously. And, when they played Clemson to the Tar Heels, they got blown out by the Tigers 85-65. But I do think North Carolina is just able to run away with this game. right? You compare, again, Florida State to their matchup when they went to Syracuse. I get it. Again, FSU's a better squad than the Orange are, but still they are able to take care of business, score 88 points on the road, back-to-back wins going into this game. And again, North Carolina just played two of their most complete games all year long going into this one. Again, a 97-73 victory against, yes, the North Carolina State Wolfpack have not been close to what they were last year, obviously in their Final Four run, but a good win beating that team by 24 points. A win by Virginia as well by 15. I think North Carolina is playing with a lot of momentum right now. They struggled in the middle of the season, but they're coming on as of late. And sure, FSU's playing better ball in their own right, but they're coming off a loss to Louisville. I get it. Louisville is a very good squad who, personally, I think is going to make a deep run in the tournament this season. But again, losing 2 out their last 3. Clemson, Louisville, they beat Miami. I'm not all that impressed. I get it. Jameer Watkins is a very efficient scorer. He's by far the best player on this FSU team. Malik Ewan, not a bad guy as well. You get Daquan Davis, Taylor Bull-Bowen. I mean, they've got players on FSU. I do still think the all-around better talent is on North Carolina. And sure, some games do feel kind of dependent on how RJ Davis does play. Davis, again, in the games where North Carolina looks the best, RJ Davis is scoring 21 points, like in their 24-point victory over NC State. I think RJ Davis and the guys can get it done. Again, Davis will score. Percentage-wise, he hasn't been the best in the last, 4-ish games. I'd expect RJ Davis to come on more, and I'm taking the North Carolina Tar Heels to go on the road to Tallahassee and beat the Florida State Seminoles. We move on to our second best bet of the video, and we move to a matchup, same odds, 2.5-point favorites. We're taking the home team this time. We're going to Thibodaux, Louisiana, for a matchup between the Texas A&M Corpus Christi Islanders. This is the first time the Islanders have been featured here on the channel, taking on the Nicholls Colonels. We're taking Nicholls. That's not that hot of a take. I don't know why the line is this short, I'll be honest with you. I feel like Nicholls kind of blows this squad out. It's not like Corpus Christi's hot right now. They win back-to-back games at home against Incarnate, Word, and Houston Christian, but Texas A&M Corpus Christi, a very defensive squad. They win low-scoring games, and that's what they were able to do in their first matchup with Nicholls earlier in the season. That's a game that was played at Corpus Christi, obviously, and it was a 61-57 victory again for the Islanders. But since that win over Nicholls on January 25th, they lose to McNeese by 1 point. Again, they played that game at home. They're not that great of a road squad, though. They go to UT Rio Grande Valley, lose the game. Sure, they beat East Texas A&M on the road, but that's the worst team in the Southland Conference. They go to Stephen F. Austin, lose the game by 14 points. They go to Lamar, lose the game by 11. They win back-to-back home games against Incarnate, Word, and Houston Christian, but again, those are home games. They go on the road to McNeese. I get that's the best team in the conference. They still lose by 16 points. There is a major difference in how the Islanders play on the road than what they do at home. Again, they beat Houston Christian at home a couple games ago. What happened the first time around? They went to Houston Christian, they lost. So now they got to go to Nicholls. I get it. They beat this squad by 4 points the first time around. But again, the game is going to be in Louisiana this time, and it's a completely different ball game. The Colonels coming off back-to-back wins on the road at the New Orleans Privateers, and then a win on Saturday over UT Rio Grande Valley. There's only 3 games left, at least in the regular season, for the Southland Conference, as they finish out league play on March 3rd, which is a week, obviously, from today. Nicholls lost back-to-back spots last week. 2 weeks ago, they lose to Northwestern State at home. That's an outlier. They lose legitimately the game of the year, Southeastern Louisiana versus Nicholls, the best game you're going to watch all year long in college basketball this season. A buzzer beater, game-winning 3 in overtime, 84-81 final for the Lions of Southeastern Louisiana. Go watch the highlights of that game. That's the best college basketball game I've watched all season long. And yes, it was at Southeastern Louisiana. It's a Southland game, but personally, that's my favorite game of the season so far. But again, Nicholls is a good team. You look at those 2 losses, okay, it's an outlier performance, loss at home to Northwestern State, and then a brawl on the road against Southeastern Louisiana in overtime. McNeese is great. We talk about how they're likely the favorites to win the conference. Well, Nicholls beat the squad at home. They're a much better team at home. McNeese 16-1. Again, who's that one? It's Nicholls. Now, again, I don't think they're as good as Lamar and Southeastern Louisiana, right? I think they're right on par with the Lions, but I think Southeastern Louisiana is the better squad. I think Lamar is better, and I do think, again, in a tournament game, McNeese can get this team too. But I do think there's a difference between the number 4 seed in the conference, which is Nicholls, and currently the number 5 seed, which is Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Again, the Islanders are just not playing with much momentum right now. Sure, they win back-to-back home games, but on the road, they are just not that great. They have lost 5 out their last 6 road games, and the only victory being, again, against the worst team in the conference. They're not a good road team, and I think, again, with the game being in Louisiana, Nicholls will get them. The Islanders are led by Gary Clark. He's their big who's going to do everything for this team. He averages 15 points a game, 8 boards a game. Other than him, the production really falls off a cliff. Owen Deese, their other big, averages 10 points a game, but again, it is all Gary Clark for this Islanders squad. And for Nicholls, they are led by, a few scorers. Robert Brown averages 13, Byron Ireland averages 12, Jamal West Jr. averages 12 points, and Michael Gray Jr. averages 11 points as well. They've got an all-around very good starting lineup, but I think the all-around better basketball team is Nicholls in this game. And on top of that, again, the big factor in this game to me is the way that the Islanders play on the road. Losing 5 out their last 6, with the only win being against the worst team in the conference and an East Texas A&M team that barely wins at all. I love Nicholls in this spot. We expect them to win the game, and we expect them to cover the 2.5 points as well. Give me the Colonels at home in Thibodaux, Louisiana to win this one again and to cover the spread. We go on to our third best bet of the video as we remain in the Southland Conference. We go to San Antonio, Texas for the Incarnate Word Cardinals taking on the Lamar Cardinals. So Cardinals versus Cardinals in this game. Love the road team here. Lamar is a slight favorite on the road against an Incarnate Word squad that is 7-10. Again, if you remember from a couple minutes ago, the elite teams in the Southland Conference. It's McNeese 1, obviously. It's McNeese Gap, Lamar, Southeastern Louisiana, slight, not even a gap. Lamar, Southeastern Louisiana, Nicholls, slight gap. Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, Northwestern State, Houston Christian, gap. Then it's Incarnate Word. There's tiers to this thing, and Lamar's a better team than Incarnate Word. You might look at Lamar's record. Oh, they're 18-10. They started the regular season horribly. They could not find their footing. They start off regular season play, beat Paul Quinn. I don't know what the hell that is. They lose to Texas A&M. They lose to Sam Houston. They lose to Akron. They have a terrible loss to Alabama State, and they lose to Omaha, Nebraska. Shout out to Omaha, Nebraska, who had the Outlanders from AEW do their whole trash can shtick after the game. It was hilarious. Go watch that. Go look it up if you haven't seen it. It's pretty funny. Regardless, Lamar turned around their season on November 30th, where they beat Our Lady of the Lake, and ever since, they've been pretty solid. By the way, they do own a road victory over the aforementioned Texas A&M Corpus Christi. That's the game that started Southland play for Lamar. But Lamar's 13-4 in Southland play, and they have not lost a game in the conference since February 3rd, where they lost at Southeastern Louisiana. Again, that's a good basketball team. Prior to that, though, their last loss comes on January 18th to McNeese. This team's won 9 out of their last 10, again, with the only loss being a 2-point loss on the road to the Southeastern Lions. And currently they're on a 5-game winning streak. Wins over the likes of UT Rio Grande Valley, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, East Texas A&M on the road, Northwestern State on the road, Houston Christian on the road. Now they got to remain on the road. They have been on the road for a week. Well, I assume they came home after the Northwestern State game. Regardless, they've been in Texas for 3 days now, and it's the end of the road trip for them. I mean, they've got nothing but home games and tournament games the rest of the way out. I think Lamar takes care of business. I don't really care. It's the 3rd game of a road trip. Incarnate Word's just not going to be able to keep up with this team, and especially the defensive presence and defensive pressure that the Lamar Cardinals bring. I just don't think Incarnate Word's able to hang. I know they've won back-to-back games. They beat Stephen F. Austin and then UT Rio Grande Valley before that. Great. They lose to Corpus Christi prior to that, and they beat the New Orleans Privateers in the game prior to that. I'm just not sold with Incarnate Word at all. They've got it's Jalen Anderson, I personally think, is their best player and best scorer. The games that I've watched out of Incarnate Word, he's actually their second leading scorer, but Jalen Anderson has been the best guy in the games that I've watched. I know he will have games like he did against New Orleans, only scoring 3 points and then 6 points in the Corpus Christi loss, but the Southeastern Louisiana game that I watched, Jalen Anderson did not come off the court. He played all 40 minutes, he scored 29 points, and back-to-back games leading into this one, he scored 17 in the win over Rio Grande Valley, and then 22 in the victory, the 2-point win for the Cardinals of Incarnate Word over Stephen F. Austin. But their leading scorer on the season is Davion Bailey. Bailey, though, a guy who averages 16 points a game. He plays pretty much the entire game, but recently has not been putting up the same, impact, or hasn't been giving out the same impact that Jalen Anderson has. Again, Bailey scoring 7, 9, and 0 in his last 3 games. Played 24 minutes in the Stephen F. Austin game, scored 0 points. Went 0 for 5 from the field. I think Lamar should be able to take this one. Again, I worry about how Incarnate Word scores recently other than Jalen Anderson. They also have Dylan Heyman, who averages 14 points a game. Heyman can score as well. I'll give Heyman credit. He's actually been a more consistent scorer than Davion Bailey. But other than Anderson and Heyman, I really worry about the scoring output out of Incarnate Word, especially with the defense that Lamar plays. I mean, Lamar will win a lot of these low-scoring affairs, and they'll just get the better of their opponents. Again, they don't have one guy who's you can point out and say, all right, this is their best scorer. I guess it's Alexis Marmolejos, who we've talked about before. Deshaun Jackson, Andrew Holyfield can go off at points, but again, it's the defensive presence that Lamar puts out. They make it difficult on you to score, and obviously, if you can't score, you can't win. Defense, I guess, still wins championships in basketball. I'm taking the Lamar Cardinals for the second best team in the Southland Conference to go on the road and beat a mediocre Incarnate Word team who is 7-10 in the Southland. Everything points to Lamar winning this game. Does it feel like a trap? Kind of. Third game in a row on a road trip. If it's a trap, we're going right into it. Give me the Lamar Cardinals on the road in San Antonio to take care of business against the Incarnate Word Cardinals. Let's go into our fourth game of the video. Hey, we got to show a lot of respect to the Florida A&M Rattlers. I respect this squad. Now, they almost won their game the other day against Alabama State. One hell of a comeback from the Rattlers, almost getting back in it on Saturday. I mean, almost winning the game. They ended up losing it by 1 point to Alabama State. What an effort. The Rattlers are a fun team. And I still think they are going to give teams problems in the SWAC tourney. Again, do we expect the Southern Jaguars to likely win the tournament, likely go to the NCAA tournament? Definitely. But I think the Rattlers can give them trouble. The same can be said about Alabama State and Jackson State as well. I think those are by far the 4 best teams in the conference, especially with the way Bethune-Cookman and Texas Southern have been playing recently. But I love this spot here for Florida A&M. They are much better than Alabama A&M. Their first matchup, it was in Florida, but the Florida A&M Rattlers beat the Bulldogs 95-79 in that game. And it was a game that was very competitive in the first half. What did the Rattlers do in the second half? They scored 61 points and outscored the Bulldogs 61-47. Florida A&M is just a better basketball team than Alabama A&M. You look at their conference records, the Rattlers are 9-5. Alabama A&M has the inverse of that record. They're 5-9, right? Prior to the Rattlers' 1 point loss to Alabama State, they were on that huge run. Guys, this team has not lost a game by more than 1 point since January 13th. That was their loss to Grambling on the road. Their 2 losses in their last 10 games have been, or 11 games. They're 9-2 in their last 11, and the 2 losses are both to Alabama State, and they're by 1 point in each game. It's a good team, man. Sterling Young does it all for the squad. Sure, a much more offensive threat than he is on the other side of the ball defensively, but Sterling Young's a monster, and Milton Matthews can sink threes all day long as well. Those are the 2 guys you need for the Rattlers. On top of that, of course, you get Shareek O'Neal, obviously son of Shaquille O'Neal, who keeps on building off of his time at Texas Southern. He's been a much improved player this year in his junior season. Actually, he might have redshirted his first year. Is he a junior or a sophomore now? He's a junior. He did not redshirt. Wow. He played 21 games at at Texas Southern. Anyways, he's improving in his junior season. Shaquille O'Neal's been good. Again, yes, he's playing at Florida A&M, but for the situation that he's in, I think Shareek O'Neal I think he's done a great job. I think he has, personally. Shaquille O'Neal, excuse me. Jordan Chapman's not bad as well. He's another one of their, he's a 3 that, he's a 2 that really plays the 3 for the squad. Jordan Chapman isn't horrible as well. He's one of their better defensive guys personally, but I just think they're better than Alabama A&M. I don't think Florida A&M is cursed against Alabama squads. I sure hope not. Obviously, again, with those 2 1-point losses to Alabama State. But for the Bulldogs, again, just a mediocre team in the SWAC. They are not that great. They're led by A.C. Bryant, who averages 15 points a game. Chad Moody averages 12 as well. But what have the Bulldogs done? Really nothing. They're coming off a loss on Saturday to Bethune-Cookman. Back-to-back wins prior to that, but who they play? Oh, by far the 2 worst teams in all of college basketball, Mississippi Valley State and Arkansas Pine Bluff. Prior to that, 4 straight losses at Florida A&M. Again, the game we talked about, 95-79 in favor of the Rattlers. A loss at Bethune-Cookman, a loss at home to Southern, and a loss at home to Grambling State as well. Alabama A&M, I'll never forgive this team, obviously, for January 13th. They're winning the game by 5 points with a minute left. Game goes into overtime. By the way, we had plus 8.5 Alabama A&M. They go into 3 overtimes, and they find a way to lose by 10. I'll never forget of Alabama A&M for that. And what have they done since that triple overtime catastrophe? They've won 3 games. And again, that catastrophe was on January 13th. Their wins are Prairie View A&M and the 2 worst teams in the conference in the Delta Devils and the Pine Bluff Lions. And if you count Prairie View A&M, they are, again, a bottom 3 team. Those are the 3 worst teams in the SWAC, and those are the only teams Alabama A&M has beat all year long. Because where their other 2 wins, they're 5 and 9 in the conference. Again, Prairie View A&M, and then 2 wins over both Mississippi Valley State and Arkansas Pine Bluff. They beat nothing but bottom feeders, and honestly, Alabama A&M is a bottom feeder in their own right. They're 5 and 9. They're the 4th worst team in the conference. I don't care if Florida A&M is still on the road. They will go on the road and beat the crap out of this Alabama A&M Bulldogs team in Huntsville, Alabama. We absolutely love the Rattlers. I still think they're going to make a run in the SWAC tournament. I do get a little concerned with Jackson State and, well, obviously Alabama State because they beat them twice, and Southern as well, but we're rooting for the Rattlers all the way in the SWAC tourney. Give me Florida A&M on the road. They've been great for us all year long. Give me the Rattlers on the road to win outright in Huntsville against the Alabama A&M Bulldogs. We go on to our 5th best bet of the video, and by far the biggest game of the day. There is an 8 o'clock game between Kansas and Colorado. It's the second half of the Big 12 doubleheader. Instead, we're going to Lubbock, Texas for the first half of the doubleheader on ESPN. And of course, Houston, Texas Tech, the 2 top teams in the Big 12 go at it, again, at Texas Tech. The Houston Cougars, 15-1 in the conference this year. Their only loss being a 1-point overtime loss at home to Texas Tech. We think Houston gets their get back tonight. I am taking the Houston Cougars on the road to get Texas Tech. I fully believe Houston's one of the best teams in the country. I think, again, that first game against Tech, very competitive, close loss, right? And I get it. Houston was expected to beat the ever-living crap out of Iowa State the other day on Saturday with all those injuries to the Cyclones. And Iowa State, kept it somewhat competitive. Houston went into half, up 12, kind of the way we expected that game to go. Iowa State had a huge run in that second half to make it close, but obviously Houston, ended up extending the lead at the end of that game, started to, again, find a way to just get out of that one and win the game by 9 points. I still think Houston's one of the elite teams in the country. I fully believe that. Okay. I don't think they're top 3. Because I think the top 3 is pretty obvious right now. It's Auburn, then it's Florida, then it's Duke. Florida and Duke, honestly, I don't mind having those interchangeably. No, Florida's better than Duke right now. I think you can make the case Houston's the 4th best team in the country right now. I think you 100% can. I think you can definitely make the case that they're better than Alabama. Will Houston be given a 1 seed? I wouldn't mind it. Now, I do fully anticipate the SEC to get 3 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament, but I wouldn't mind seeing Houston get that last one, especially if they win the Big 12 and especially if they can win a huge game on the road in Lubbock tonight. I wouldn't be against it. I think, again, by far, the Houston Cougars are the best team in the Big 12. And it all starts with their leading scorer in LJ Cryer. I mean, Cryer's been great all year long, averaging 15 points a game. Obviously, he was the guy last year. The heart and soul of this team last year, 100% was Jamal Shed. But LJ Cryer, again, is great yet again for the Houston Cougars. Emmanuel Sharp's been good. Juwan Roberts has been very excellent as their big this season, averaging 11 and 6. But again, LJ Cryer is usually the guy leading them in points every single night. And again, he's just taken over even more this season with Jamal Shed obviously being in the NBA. For Texas Tech, they're a good team. They're a very good team, right? Talking about Texas Tech, we're talking about JT Toppin. JT Toppin's an elite player in college basketball this season. JT Toppin's going to be a good player, I believe so, in the NBA next season. I think JT Toppin's great, right? I mean, JT Toppin has taken that step this season. He was at New Mexico last year, at Texas Tech this season, went from averaging 12 at UNM to 17.5 a game at Texas Tech this season. And Toppin recently has gone off. I mean, right, the 41 points in the double overtime victory over Arizona State, 32 in the huge victory over Oklahoma State. JT Toppin's a great basketball player, right? He is the heart and soul of Texas Tech this season, averaging 17 points, but Chance McMillan's been really good as well. Darian Williams is the lead as well. I mean, again, the Red Raiders are good. The thing is, they're just second best. They just are. And I get it. They do own a win over Houston this season, right? Tech's ranked 9th. The Cougars are ranked, what, 5th? I understand. Texas Tech does have the victory over them. They just did lose to TCU on the road. JT Toppin wasn't all that effective in that game. They lost at Arizona. I get it. Nobody's gone to Lubbock this year and beat them other than Iowa State. And that's when Iowa State was really at their peak this season in the Big 12. I get it. The Cyclones are dealing with a bunch of injuries. Personally, the way they're trending right now, I don't expect Iowa State to be anything in the tournament. I just don't think they will be. I know they got back on the right track after that 3-game losing streak. Haven't really beat anybody. Again, I think Iowa State, personally, I think they're probably a second-round exit. Depends how the bracket works, obviously. I don't know how far that team gets. But Houston's playing with a lot of momentum right now. Again, they have not lost since that Texas Tech game. They have 4 losses all year long. They are Auburn, Alabama, and that's the reasoning for having Alabama as that 1 seed over Houston. I get it. San Diego State, who's a good team out the Mountain West, and Texas Tech. 3 of their 4 losses come in overtime. The one that isn't is Auburn, who's the best team undisputedly in the country right now. Houston's great. I think they get their get back. I think they play better defense than Texas Tech. Obviously they do. That's the style. Again, if Houston can limit the scoring and slow this game down, slow the pace, go on the road, and again, just try to make this game as short as possible in Lubbock. I'm not saying it's the same exact thing. Again, different scenario. But it's to the same extent what St. Mary's did at Gonzaga, right? Take the shot clock down to 10 seconds, 5 seconds, every single possession. Play great defense on the other side of the ball. Take your opportunities when presented, but obviously slow the game down. I'm not saying Houston's going to play that same style of ball. They're not the same team. They're not really like St. Mary's, but I'm saying same type of situation though. Houston, I think, is going to play great defense on the road. I think they're going to maximize their possessions, and I do think they're going to go on the road, get their revenge, and beat Texas Tech. We are going with the 5th ranked team in the country, trying to make a push to not just win the Big 12, but to become a 1 seed, obviously, in the NCAA tournament. We're taking the Houston Cougars on the road to take care of business in Lubbock. I like the Cougars to win the basketball game. They are favorites in this spot, which is kind of surprising to me, but I get it. Again, only 4 losses this year, 3 are in overtime. The other one's Auburn, and they have not lost since that initial matchup against Texas Tech. Give me the Houston Cougars on the road to win outright in Lubbock, really cementing themselves as the best team in the Big 12. And if I'm not mistaken, that will clinch their regular season title of the Big 12. Give me LJ Cryer and the guys here with the Houston Cougars. So folks, thank y'all for watching our 5 best bets for college basketball here on February 24th. If you have not yet though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks, and make sure to join us tomorrow for more daily college basketball best bets, and in a couple hours for our NBA predictions as well, and also our UFC predictions that are linked in the description down below. And also make sure to subscribe to Greedo Plays MMA. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.